spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scary-ish Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, and this is Adam Diaz, and we're here to bring you more weird stories.
Hello. Welcome back. I'm super happy to be here. So, Robin, what is your topic going to be this week?
So I was struggling to come up with an idea for this week's episode, and had ShineCon this weekend, so I didn't really have time to look at a whole bunch of different things. But luckily, our lovely friends at the JJ Obsession, that's their shop name, you guys should totally check out their stuff, they're awesome, that we tabled with, gave us an amazing idea of twins. So that's what I'm going to do.
Right on. I think I'm going to be doing, I know I'm going to be doing Haunted Hollywood, which is what I'm calling the paranormal stuff that happened behind the making of a movie. So I'm actually pretty excited to do that too.
Cool.
So, normal stuff, we're going to start out the episode with a couple homegrown horrors. Before we launch into those, if you guys want to reach out to us, homegrown horror is basically a paranormal experience or just a general experience that you thought was weird or creepy or moving or touching, whatever you really want to share. You can email us, and that email address is storytime@scarish.com. You can also go to facebook.com/scarish podcast, and you can message us there. If you want to post to the group, you can join it. The Scarish Spooky Friends group, I think it's called.
Yep.
And you can post there for some instant feedback. You can also join the Discord from there. We usually have the invite there for anyone who wants to join, so you can get some feedback from the community. You can also reach out to us at ScaryishPod if you want to tweet at us. It's only 280 characters, so usually we get shout outs or just suggestions for topics or stuff like that. But those are the best ways to reach out to us. So I think you're going first to start this, aren't you?
We didn't really discuss it, but I guess I can go first. This one goes, "Hey, Robin and Adam. Hello. My name's Emma, and I found
Hello. Sorry, delayed hello.
Okay. My name is Emma, and I found your podcast on Spotify. I listen to it every day because I'm hooked on the horror." That's kind of cool. I think it's cool that we have a few people that are like, do more true crime, and then some people that are like, do more horror.
Right.
It's pretty interesting. I have a story from when I was little. I don't remember how old I was, but I know it was a long time ago. I don't mind if you read it on the podcast. Great, because it's here.
Yeah, good thing.
So I was walking into my bedroom, and right next to my door is a 5-foot-tall dresser. That is a huge dresser. Is it? Wait, hold on. How tall am I?
5 foot. I don't know. It's not. Ours I think is 4 feet, so that is pretty tall.
It's one of those 5-drawer, kind of tallish ones that are single drawered, maybe.
I don't know. Ours is really wide because it has 3 or it has 3. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's tall-ish, so we'll just go with that.
With a large jewelry box on top that my grandma on my dad's side gave me. On top of that was a large piggy bank that I named Miss Piggy. That's adorable.
Super creative.
The jewelry box and the pig were both far back on my dresser, touching the wall. I walked in and I looked at the piggy bank and it flew at my head. What?
That's bizarre.
Why?
Not the typical behavior you'd expect from a piggy bank.
It was just shove more money in me. I don't know. Maybe. It could happen. It missed and shattered on the floor, and a piece almost hit me in the eye.
Wow.
That is terrifying. I always think about that. What if I just bent down an inch lower or something like that, where it's just that could have literally just gone straight into my eye and I wasn't paying attention. That just freaks me out, the idea of just having things cut me and impale my eyeballs.
Cool.
I don't know. It sounds crazy, but I'm 100% sure I wasn't dreaming. If my footsteps were too heavy and the piggy bank did fall, it would have hit the dresser and then rolled onto the floor in front of it. Instead, it flew about 5 feet away from the dresser and landed where I was standing. I was stunned and I didn't know what to do. I was terrified because I saw it fly at me since I was looking at it when I walked in. I have a theory that it has to do with the jewelry box since it was from my dad's side of the family and they have had paranormal experiences before. Oh man, what if it's Dybbuk box type thing where it's
I don't know if it's that serious. So she thinks the thing that it was next to caused it to fly across the room.
Well, what if the jewelry box is haunted and then the ghost is no, Miss Piggy, get piggity wrecked.
I hate you. I just saw you get so happy because you figured out the word piggity wrecked instead of riggity wrecked.
Anyway, I know my story sounds made up, but I promise it's not. My family tells me I'm crazy or that I'm exaggerating, so I wanted to email this to you guys so I could have a chance to have my voice heard by people who aren't going to call me crazy or dramatic. you found the right place. This is a safe zone.
We only call each other crazy or dramatic, so you're pretty safe there.
You are dramatic.
You are crazy.
And this is the Scariest Podcast. Thanks, bye. Okay. Thanks for listening. I love your podcast so much. You guys are so funny, especially Adam's baby pill song. Oh, I hate it so much.
Don't forget to take your baby pill or I'll kick you down the stairs.
No, that sounds horrible.
It does.
Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Emma.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it, and we hope you're still listening. I know this was from June, and it's been 2 months, but it's on the podcast now, so...
Yeah. Thank you guys for sending us your stories. I know we get to them 2 months in the future, but hey, we're going to catch up. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to mine, and this one starts out, Hello, scary friends. Hello. My name is Alexis, and I'm from Georgia. I'm 18, and you can definitely read this on the podcast.
Thanks.
I think this one was on Facebook, so I'm not sure if she posted this, or I don't know. I'm not sure if they posted this,
or it was from
to
a
the wall,
message
or
or
if they
something.
messaged it directly to us. So I've had a lot of spooky things happen in my life, and I'm sure I'll remember more stories from when I was younger and send them your way soon. I've been trying to catch up to current podcasts for like months now. In parentheses, yes, I'm a Spotify listener. Shout out to Spotify. I started from the very beginning of the pod and have been listening while I work on my very own house. Yay! My mom listens.
Congratulations!
Right? That's awesome. My mom listened too, sort of, and says your jokes are funny, Adam. Smiley
Aw,
face.
that's cute.
That's really nice. These are in order of when they were sent. I swear they weren't picked just to like give me an ego boost. I really appreciate that from both of you, though. I must have had something really funny I said that week 2 months ago that came out where everyone's like, all right.
We'll never know.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It might have been when the Baby Pill song debuted.
Oh, God.
Getting back to the email. Anyway, I'm a proud owner of 4 amazing dogs and 1 asshole cat. I'm well aware that animals can sense things that we humans cannot see. So that being said, my stories are going to include them a whole awful lot, and this one doesn't as much. This was at a house we had just moved into, me and my mom plus her boyfriend at the time. He works on houses, and we were definitely going to fix up this old mobile home and give it a foundation, a.k.a. turn this bitch into a certified house.
That's hilarious.
Before we bought the house, the deed had said there were some, quote, buildings in the woods behind the house, and we thought nothing of it. In parentheses, we shouldn't have done that. That was very stupid. So anyway, we got bulldozers out there, and we were doing a bunch of demolition. We made a pit with them over by the start of the woods. We threw all of our house shards into it while we were working and thought nothing of it when we would light it up later to burn most of it before dozing the dirt back on it and leaving it. Well, at the end of this one day, we noticed the cement foundation peeking from the trees, so I, in parentheses, being the brave soul that I am, took my dog Gypsy and walked into the woods to investigate.
That's smart that you didn't go alone.
Yeah.
Always bring a friend.
Taking a pet, too. I don't know what kind of dog it is, but it's always nice to have something there to protect you.
Yep.
This is no easy task.
What if it was a tiny, cute, fluffy dog, though?
That'd be really funny. Maybe the ghost would be like, oh, it's too cute to haunt. This is no easy task, as this is Georgia, and the mosquitoes are as big as birds. Oh, my God.
That's disgusting.
But as I got closer, I noticed these, quote, buildings are roughly the size of a body.
What?
There was also a foundation left from something bigger. We found out later that this was perhaps a church, and that the smaller, quote, buildings were actually graves.
No, that's horrible.
So I'm out in the woods. So I got out of the woods pretty quick after I put 2 and 2 together. After I explained this to my mom, who of course did not believe me until she ventured in the woods to see, she said the foundation of the bigger building had cracked straight through the middle and was sinking in now. All I can figure is that the work we were doing near the area may have vibrated the ground and knocked it loose. So it seems spooky enough, right? Wrong. Wow. So there's more to this?
But I don't know how that would even work, where it's like, okay, you're doing construction nearby, but how would it, like...
crack the foundation of the other place? Yeah, if that was the case, then you wouldn't be able to build houses like one after the other.
Yeah.
You'd have to build them all at the same time. We want to know what the fuck and who are in the woods behind our house. I remember going with her to the courthouse to look through the past owners of the land, and it turns out that this cemetery was a family cemetery, the family's name being Vaughn. Guess what my mom's maiden name was?
No, it's
Vaughn.
not.
Boom, mic drop. So that's the biggest part of the spooky house that was my childhood, but we had plenty of other occurrences. My dogs would bark at doors, and they'd open or shake. Specifically, one dog of ours, Rocky, would be woken up from dead sleep screaming like someone or something had kicked him or pinched him. That's super sad.
Poor puppy.
We also heard a voice, often a man, or whistling from other ends of the house. It would, of course, get worse when we worked on the house and we didn't have a lot of money to just up and move, so we kind of became friends with this ghost and called him Charles.
Oh, my goodness.
Which came from the only thing we can make out from one of the graves, a CH. I've been sitting on this story a long time because I've been trying to catch up, but didn't want to wait anymore. You can read this on the podcast. I'll listen to it like years later when I've listened to all the rest of them.
That's hilarious.
I'm currently listening to Storytime episode 7. Anyway, keep on creeping on. By the way, I don't know how to include pictures of my animals because I'm a technology-stunted citizen of the U.S. I'll probably be on Facebook and show pictures then.
Okay,
that
sounds
totally
good.
works. That way everyone can see them.
I love
so that's
when
perfect.
people post their omen babies in the Facebook group because I love just seeing happy animals.
Yeah, I agree. It's super creepy to buy land and then be like, oh, look, there's a cemetery behind the place that we bought on the land that we purchased, and it looks like it's also sinking into the ground.
Isn't that something that they should, like, tell
Disclose?
you? Yeah.
I don't know. It just depends on, I guess, how they purchased it, and maybe, like, the whole, like, there's buildings back there was the way of disclosing it. Like, they didn't have to be too specific on what the buildings were, but I don't know.
That makes sense.
So, right on. Again, guys, if you want to email us, storytime@scaryish.com, facebook.com/scariyishpodcast, and our Twitter is @scariyishpod. So, I think we're just going to move right along into the main topics. So, did you want to go first, or am I going first?
Well, I already read first, so I'll just go first.
Okay.
So, our friends, Jen and Jess, that we tabled with at the convention, they told us a couple creepy/coincidental twin stories, and it just got me like really interested because I never thought of that before. Like,
side note, Jen and Jess are twins.
Are twins.
And they're also extremely nice and fun and super helpful. She already said shout out to them. Big shout out. Thank you so much. And another quick shout out to a sister, Liz, Robin's sister, for helping us there too. You guys were all amazing. Thank you so much.
It was such a cool experience this weekend, and I would definitely do it again. 10 out of 10 would do it again. But yes, so they were telling us these really cool stories, and I had never thought of it before, and it made me want to like look into them and just see what other cool stories I could come across. And as usual, you all have the ability to, you know, like make your own assumptions and what your own beliefs are
Draw
about
your
the
own
story.
conclusions.
Yeah,
from
about
all
the
this.
stories and stuff like that. And so I'm just going to talk about a couple of instances that really interested me. And so the first one I'm going to cover are a set of Swedish twins. It's not that they're Swedish that makes them interesting, but not that Swedish aren't interesting. Let me just make this more awkward.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so this first one, they're a pair of twins by the names of Ursula and Sabina Eriksson.
Oh my god, I just got done playing that Disney Villains game and I was Ursula.
And you won, and you suck, and I hate you.
I did win, and I also sang Poor Unfortunate Souls like the whole time we were playing the game. It was really fun.
He's not lying either. He literally was sitting there just like, poor unfortunate souls.
Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Over and over and over again,
it's
guys.
so much fun.
So these were just like two happy, healthy women, both living their own lives with their own respective families. One lived in Ireland and one lived in the U.S. And in 2008, Ursula went to visit her sister in Ireland, which led to a random case of the crazies.
Is that what we're calling it now? Random case of the crazies?
It's just these two were just... It went from them being like normal, just fine, happy life. They live normal lives. And then she goes to visit her sister in Ireland, and in an act that was seen by the masses, like it was videotaped, put on TV. You can watch the video online right now if you want. It's on YouTube. The two randomly went on a violent, not crime spree, but like a violent spree. They pretty much went mad, and it caused several traffic accidents. And
are these the people that were on the freeway in that video we've seen?
Yeah.
Wow.
So one murder victim, and the whole entire incident ended up with them on this highway surrounded by cops. So it's just really crazy intense, like how two people had this random day where they just did crazy things. While they were both in Ireland, together they got onto a bus to London. They didn't give any notice to either of their families. They just were like, we're going to hop on this bus. We're going to go to Liverpool. It'll be cool. Fun. And while on the bus, the two were acting out like they were drunk or on drugs or something. Like they were just teenagers partying, doing stupid stuff. And they acted out so much so that the driver was forced to kick them off into the middle of the highway. Just for like, get off my bus, please. Wow. Thanks. The two just started walking in the middle of the highway with no regard to any of the cars. They're just acting like assholes. And as they were doing this, they came across a group of police officers filming for a BBC Cops type show. I don't know the exact...
This must have been the best episode of British Cops ever.
Yeah, so the cameras were rolling like every second of the twins' antics, like the entire time. Cameras were on them. And legit, you can watch this video, guys. It's crazy. They ran across the busy motorway. That's what they call the highway.
I was going to say, yeah.
Ursula was able to dodge cars while Sabina was actually knocked over. And although this video, if you watch it, you're like, this is staged. There's no way that that's real. Like, it's unbelievable. There is a real murder conviction to prove its validity. Like, there's a murder that happens after this.
Wow, spoilers.
And, yeah, sorry, guys. But, it's real. It's true. It happened. And as the police were detaining the women, trying to, like, keep them from running into the street, Ursula sprinted straight into the highway at a car. Just, like, sprinted into it. And she obviously suffered serious injuries. And seconds later, Sabina did the exact same thing. Like, she didn't give cops any time to react. She was just like, fuck it, I'm running into the street too.
Wow, like, that looked cool. I'll give that a shot too.
Yeah, and so she was obviously hit by a car. And despite being hit by a car, Sabina just got up and tried to attack the officers afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, what happens to someone that makes them want to do this? Like,
I would just say drugs, like a really bad batch of drugs.
But there's no drugs in their system.
Wow.
They're okay, so
I don't know.
It literally took 6 people to hold Sabina. Ursula was still raging, laying in the middle of the road, probably freaking out about over by where she was laying, like wanting to do the exact same thing that Sabina was doing, but having her fucking body all fucked up.
I was gonna say,
hit by a car.
Is she like all mangled on the ground, just like growling? She
must have been just like, I don't know. She's probably trying to do exactly what Sabina was doing, but wasn't able to. After the whole ordeal happened on the highway, Sabina calmed down and seemed normal enough, although she was a little weird. She was normal enough that police released her from custody the very next day. And hours after her...
Wow. They just chalked that up to like, oh, she just went a little fucking crazy, no big deal, let her go.
And hours after her release, she stabbed and murdered a man by the name of Glenn Hollinshead, who had offered her a place to stay.
Wow. So she just left. Did she know this guy? Or was it just a random stranger? I think it was
just a random guy that was like...
It was like, yo, you want to stay with me?
And she stabbed him the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. These women were completely level-headed before all this happened.
Until they both just went apparently insane.
Yeah. And so after she murdered this guy, she jumped off a 40-foot bridge. She somehow survived.
Did she land in water or did she land on like concrete?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Ask Wikipedia people. Tell us.
Okay.
She somehow survived and was arrested while she was in the hospital. She pled guilty to manslaughter, which is not surprising because she fucking did it, and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. And I just don't understand how someone gets only 5 years in prison
for killing someone. Yeah, that's bizarre.
It's just hard to believe that someone's life is only worth 5 years. And Ursula was released from the hospital after recovering, which is crazy. She was labeled mentally unstable, and neither Ursula or Sabina had any drugs or alcohol in their system the entire time. So,
maybe they were both just sort of crazy the entire time and no one really said anything.
maybe.
And then they just like completely fucking snapped, or maybe they were just completely normal and then I don't know what happened.
One source that I read said that one of them had a fight with their significant other the day before.
But why
So
would
I
that
don't
affect
know.
both of them? You know what I mean?
Triggered. I don't know. Like it's just mind blowing to me that this would happen. And so apparently, like, she was able to get 5 years because they labeled her like mentally unstable. And supposedly, psychiatrists say that they suffered from a form of temporary insanity or a folie à deux, where one twin was afflicted and the other became infected by that twin's madness.
That's just so
So
weird
it's
that
like-
someone else's madness can, like, quote unquote infect you.
It's because of their bond being that strong because they're twins.
I didn't know that bond was like something that could channel a mental break.
Who knows?
It's slightly terrifying.
That's why this is so interesting for me, because I never thought about it. Like, when you are born with someone else and you've lived with someone else while you're developing for 9 months, you know what I mean? And then you're born and you're exactly like that person. You two are just always together. Like, there has to be a bond there, you know?
Like Jaime and Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, except you don't do each other.
Yeah, I mean, in most cases. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Oh, no. Okay. Since this happened, they've both been declared as insane, and I am not surprised.
No, I'm not either,
No,
because
so
that
it's just-
sounds insane.
Yeah, so because of this bond, these two just went insane together, and it's just incredible. And I just think that's so interesting, and
Interesting
probably
is
a little
definitely one word.
scary-ish.
Yeah, I hate you so much.
But yeah, if there are any other twins out there or anything, like, let us know how
Like,
you're
any of the twins
like,
out there, like, I don't know, my cousin, or, you know,
yeah.
the two twins we were just hanging out with all weekend.
Yeah, I forgot Chrissy. And you met my cousin that's a twin too.
I did, yeah. I met
Yeah.
David. Right?
So it's I think that's hilarious. Okay. We actually do know quite a few twins, but we never actually asked them questions about
They're
stuff.
all pretty nice and all
Yeah.
seemed pretty cool. So good job, guys. Don't transfer craziness over that bond and run headlong into a car on a freeway or motorway or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
driving super fast.
Yeah, and then you can go cover your fun topic, and then I'll go cover the other one of mine.
Oh, really? You're going to have me go and then you're going to come back and finish out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not good. It won't be good. It's not as good as yours, I'm sure. Oh,
I don't know.
well, okay. So do you want me to read the second one and then?
It's totally up to you. We'll do whatever you want to do.
Okay. Well, let's do my second one so that you can finish up with your really cool topic.
I don't know how good it's going to be, but it's interesting to me, so I hope I can convey that to you guys through this bond we have.
Okay. Well, while writing this, his whole research paper here, randomly would be like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know.
And like, what?
Yeah.
And just like all these exclamations coming from his corner, and I'm just like, okay. Okay.
She was silent, and she was doing this and being very quiet and being like, "It's so cold in here." She's still wrapped in a blanket right now,
It's
so
cold in here.
there's no fan on. You're crazy.
You're crazy. Okay, so my second set of twins.
Before we move into that, I just need to have people out there. Okay, some people always have to have a fan on, even in the middle of the winter. That's me. Some people never want a fan on and never seem to get hot no matter what. That's Robin. So depending on which one you are, do hashtag Team Adam or hashtag Team Robin,
Well,
and let us
no,
know what your
that's
habits are
not-
like.
I feel like that's not specific enough.
I think that's pretty specific. In this one instance...
Why don't we just do Team Fan or Team No Fan?
Okay, whatever. Team fan or team no fan. I just think it would be funny to go back through and check all the Team Adams and Team Robins for all the different things we do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, do team fan and team no fan so no one has to feel like, hurt for who you're voting for here. But I don't know, like, I always have a fan on. It's a noise thing, and it's also like having circulation in the room.
If it's a noise thing, then can't you just have it on the lower setting? You'd still hear the noise.
But it's also the circulation in the room. So I want to feel like
Open a window.
No, because then you can hear so much sound coming from the road right outside.
But you
our
just said
window.
you want sound.
Not that. I want ambient sound. I
That
don't
is
want
ambient sound.
No, there's a difference between ambient sound and like over and over and over.
I have always grown up by a highway, and so to me that is ambient sound. I just tune it out. until I try and focus
It's
on
140 degrees outside at night, and you want me to open a window to cool off.
Yes.
You must be mad. This is 100% true story. I don't know if I've told this before. Our air conditioner broke last year in the upstairs, okay? So everyone moved downstairs to sleep because it was so fucking hot upstairs. It was like 95 degrees upstairs at night, super stuffy. Everyone's sleeping on couches downstairs except for Robin and I think one other person. We had guests at the time, and I think one other person stayed upstairs. And I came upstairs in the morning to wake up Robin, and I swear to you, I walk past the thermostat, it's 95 degrees upstairs, and the sun is just blistering on the house. And I walk into the bedroom, and Robin is completely wrapped in a winter blanket. And she says, "When did you guys fix the AC? It's so cold in here."
It was so cold.
And it was at least 95 degrees in the hallway, which means that the room she was in was at least like 2 or 3 degrees hotter. And she's wrapped in a blanket, cold. So that's just living proof right there that she's crazy.
What if I'm just a vampire?
Well, then I don't know, would sparkle in the sunlight? I don't think you really sparkle in the sunlight. Or is that not how vampires work? Say it.
No, I want to sparkle.
No, I hate Twilight so much. But yeah, that's just bizarre behavior for someone that's like, turn the fan off. I'm like, go sleep in a sauna. Like, you're insane. So
what's wrong with it?
It's just so fucking hot. I don't know how you can be comfortable in that sort of misery.
Because my heart is so cold.
Yeah, you really are. You're freezing. You always put your feet on me, and it's absolutely so fucking cold. I got a reminder, like, Facebook memories with Robin Grace, and it's like 3 years ago, and it's that picture of the... It's like a meme that someone drew of a chick that's stolen all the blanket, is completely wrapped in it, and is putting her cold-ass feet on the person's back who's sleeping with no blanket. And you're like, hey, this is you, Adam. I'm like, yeah, that sure is me. All right, let's just get back to it. Get back to your second one. Okay. Sorry for interrupting. Team fan all the way. # team fan.
Team no fan, sorry. Anyway, so my second set of twins are called, or are named, they're not called. So they're named June and Jennifer Gibbons. And this story, our friends Jen and Jess actually told us, and that's what got me really curious about the idea of twins and the connection that they have. And I legit, like, guys, I've never thought of this before, and it's just such a cool topic. But June and Jennifer Gibbons were a set of twins from Wales in the UK. They're also known as, quote unquote, the silent twins. And they happened to be the only black children in their community when they grew up, and were often picked on. And some people think that is actually what triggered them to behave so strangely. So
it was like physical and mental abuse.
Yeah, like they were just like mentally like bullied all the time and like treated like shit. And obviously, if you were like that every single day going to school, I wouldn't want to talk to anyone else either.
I wouldn't either.
The two refused to speak to anyone other than each other and their younger sister, Rose. And what's creepy about these two is that they seemed to develop a language of their own between each other. And this is a legit thing between twins. It's actually well known that twins like actually make their own languages between each other. There's a name for it. I wish I had written it down, but there's an actual, not medical condition. There's a term for what they do.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway.
If you're a twin, let us know what your language is called. Not your specific language. I imagine they're all called something different. I don't think all twins get a handbook like that says this is the twin language. You're only allowed to speak
No. Yeah. They make their own languages. And, it was unintelligible to others. Like they started off like talking to each other normally, and it just developed into this totally unintelligible language. And they shared it only between themselves, and they often actually moved like mirrors of each other, which is creepy.
So if one moved, the other one moved?
Yeah, it was like they were always together. They were always in sync. Like, it's just intense.
So if I move, you move, just like that?
Oh, I just realized what you were doing. Stupid
Keep going.
song.
I apologize.
Okay. By the age of 14, they had gone through a succession of therapists in an attempt to get them to open up to communicating with others. And obviously that didn't work. It was unsuccessful. And in an attempt to further push them towards socializing, they were actually sent to separate boarding schools. So their families just like, you guys...
Let's separate them so they don't have like a comfort zone or anyone to feel good around.
Right. And so...
Smart move.
It just made it worse. It made their isolation even worse. They became catatonic, becoming completely withdrawn from others. Why would you do that? Well, it's like they have one friend. Let them have that one friend, at least.
Maybe they can make a friend. Like, together they can find someone to bring in. You know what I mean?
It's just, to me, that's really harsh, separating twins like that.
Yeah.
I can't even...
I don't know. I understand, like, it's really hard to make a decision like that as a parent. And you think, like, hey, maybe if they don't have their support system, like, it'll force them to branch out. Like, when you throw your kid into a middle of a pool.
Yeah.
Like, he'll learn to swim or he'll die. But
what?
It's like, that's what some people's, like, parents and grandparents did. Like, you know how my parent taught me how to swim? They threw me in a pool and they're like, figure it out.
That's how birds learn to fly.
Yeah, I know. I felt that way when I was on that jet ski. Shout out.
Wow.
Hashtag jet skis.
Okay. So they isolated themselves to their bedrooms, playing with dolls and creating stories. And in 1979, the two were gifted with diaries for Christmas. And so these diaries kind of led them to their short career in writing. And they each wrote several novels, many of which involved young men and women exhibiting strange behaviors, which I'm not at all surprised about.
That's a really outgoing thing to do. Like, as much as like novelists tend to be, like secluded or like separationists.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, writing a book and putting your thoughts out there for everyone else to read is something that's like, it's really brave. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
So it's super cool that they did that.
Well, June wrote a book called Pepsi Cola Addict about a high schooler seduced by their teacher, then sent to a reformatory school where a guard tries to make a pass at him.
Wow.
Yeah. So their books are pretty interesting. Jennifer wrote a book called The Pugilist about a physician who kills their family dog in order to use its heart to save their dying child. The dog's spirit lives on in the child and gets revenge against the father.
That's really, really bizarre. I like it.
It's like, that's like some Full Metal Alchemist shit right there. Like, using your dog and kid together. No?
Never seen it. I saw the movie, which was really good. Just like
you
that.
did see the movie.
Yeah, I just said I saw the movie.
But like, you don't remember where that one scientist...
I do, yeah. I do.
The Chimera.
I'm just saying, like, I didn't watch the anime, which is okay, because the movie was so good, I don't need to see it. Just like with Death Note. The movie is so perfect.
And he's not even talking about the Japanese ones. He's talking about this...
That's a Japanese thing? That's crazy.
Oh my god. Get out. Get out of here.
I can't. I still have to read mine.
I'll read yours myself.
No, you won't.
Okay. But yeah, so their book topics were lots of violence and horror-esque topics, and it was just weird. And they have a lot of them. So, their attempts at publishing and selling their short stories to magazines was unsuccessful.
That's
People
sad.
were like, I don't really want this in my things, thanks. And I could see why. It's a little out of the box.
Yeah, but
kind
people
of
say that right up until they do want it, you know? So it's just, I don't
Yeah.
know. I hate hearing about people getting rejected for having, like, original ideas.
Well, so after all this, the twins eventually turned to a life of crime, including arson, causing them to be committed into the Broadmoor Hospital. And they were in this high-security mental health hospital for 14 years.
Wow, that's so long.
High-security mental health hospital for 14 years. And June blamed their lengthy stay there on their selective muteness. So she thought, like, just because we don't talk all the time, that's why we're in here for 14 years.
She didn't think it had anything to do with the fire.
Or, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how that mind process is, how they think things work and stuff like that. I don't know. It's weird. But
they know they're different, so they decide, like, that must be why they're being persecuted. It can't be because they've broken specific rules that no one's allowed to break.
Yeah. They were put on strong antipsychotic meds that affected their concentration. Jennifer actually developed an order called tardive dyskinesia, which is the involuntary repetitive movements. So she just kept making the same movements over and over again, not being able to control it.
She got very twitchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That must be what it is.
The non-medical way to describe it.
Right. And eventually they did change their medication, so that they could start writing again. In their diaries, though, they were so overwriting novels. They were like, creative writing is over. We don't want to do it anymore.
It's because people are so judgmental. People are fucking pricks.
So the girls had an agreement with each other that if one of them died, the other must speak and live a normal life. And the longer they stayed in the hospital, the more they began to believe that one of them had to die, that it was necessary. Yeah. And after a lot of discussion, Jennifer decided to be the sacrifice in order for the other to have a normal life.
She volunteered as tribute.
Yeah, she volunteered as tribute.
That's so sad.
Oh, you can't see my hands.
Yeah, she two-tapped her chest.
After a lot of discussion, Jennifer decided to be the sacrifice in order for the other to have a normal life. And in March of 1993, the twins were transferred from Broadmoor to the Castle Clinic, which was not as high security. Yeah. And so that was in Bridgend, Wales.
Brigand.
And Bridgen, Wales.
Oh, I know. Brigand is how I say it.
Upon their arrival, Jennifer wouldn't wake up. So she was just gone. She was taken to the hospital where she died soon after of a sudden inflammation of the heart.
Wow,
and
that's so crazy.
It is crazy. And there were no drugs or poison found in her system. Her death is legit still a mystery. June revealed that Jennifer had been acting strangely before their release, and her speech had been slurring. She had said that she was dying. So before they were released.
She just knew she was dying.
But that's what June said. I don't know if that's true. And on their trip to the clinic, Jennifer had been sleeping in June's lap with her eyes open, which is creepy
as fuck.
June is recounted to have said that Jennifer had given up her life for her and that she was free at last.
Aw, that's so sad, dude.
That's super sad. That June was free at last, not that Jennifer.
I know what you meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
June now lives quietly and independently near her parents in West Wales. So it's super sad that she had to go through all of that.
Right, and she lost her sister.
Right. So it's like you separate them, send them to separate boarding schools, and in the end they get separated anyway, and it's super sad.
It's weird to say, and I know this is like not typically the way I think, because I'm usually pretty skeptical. I think they like shared a soul. Like they both couldn't be complete unless one of them wasn't there anymore, and that's super sad. It's just like tragic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just very sad.
You can't help it, though. Someone was going to die before the other one anyway.
It's just, I don't know. I can't help but feel like maybe there's something that could have been done where that didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's a medical mystery for how she passed away, so that's just so bizarre.
What if, when she was sleeping with her eyes open, she was like putting her soul into the other twin, and now they are complete together?
I don't know. That sounds really weird.
Yeah.
It didn't sound as weird when I thought it, but when I said it and then you built on it, now it just sounds stupid.
You're stupid. Anyway, there are a lot more twin stories that I'll probably bring up later on, but there's some where like their deaths were identical, or like their lives even after being separated were identical, and it's just so weird. So yeah, well, maybe more later.
Right on.
Maybe.
Cool. That was really good. You acted like that wasn't going to be good, and that wound up being really good.
Oh, thanks.
So good job.
Cool beans, yo.
All right, well, I guess I'll just transition into mine then. So this week I was going to do some really creepy twin stories, but Robin stole that. So because I'm stubborn and I'm a dick, I'm just not going to do literally anything this week. So we're all going to sit here silently for the next 25 minutes.
But you already told us.
As a protest of Robin stealing topics. Take that, Robin.
You already told us what your topic was. You're a liar.
Okay, yeah, that was boring. So after she stole my topic, I decided to check in. Actually, I didn't know she was stealing my topic, but I decided to check in on something I've almost done twice now. And initially, I was going to do 2 of these stories. And then while doing research for the first one, which is one that I was more familiar with, I realized there was a whole lot to it that I didn't really know. So I decided to just go with one, which is cool because, like I said, I was doing Haunted Hollywood. And even though, like, I decided to only do one, this means that I can revisit it more often. In fact, there's so many that I found. Maybe I'll do like every 3rd episode of the month, or maybe like every 8 episodes or something like that. We can revisit them because there's a lot of them, and I don't know. They're just really interesting to me. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how you guys like this. But without any further blabbering, I present to you The Curse of Poltergeist. So this is the Poltergeist franchise. And it's important to note that I'm talking about the original film that released in 1982 and starred Craig T. Nelson, or Coach, as anyone worth a damn calls him, from the TV show Coach.
So I have heard a lot about this movie and a lot of death surrounding this movie. Are there any other interesting, cool tidbits that you might...
There's one that I didn't even know about, so it'll be really interesting to go over it. And they did remake this. There's Poltergeist 1, 2, and 3 from the 80s, and then they remade it in, I think, 2012, maybe 2013, maybe a little bit later than that, with, what's-his-face with the stuff. It was good, but it wasn't very good. It was kind of true to the original, but I didn't really like it as much. If you're thinking about watching a scary movie and you're thinking about watching Poltergeist, I recommend the original. So the premise of the movie is pretty straightforward. It's just a typical American family of 5, which is, a wife, a husband, and 3 kids.
Party of 5?
I hate you. And it has some strange happenings kick off in their house, and they proceed to get worse and worse. And at the center of the events is the youngest daughter, which I believe is supposed to be like 4 or 5 years old at the time. And the youngest daughter is named Carol Ann. And as a side note, I truly believe that this movie had an effect on my generation and the generation of parents that saw it when it came out, because I've never met someone who is named Carol Ann. And I've certainly never met someone who will name their kid Carol Ann. So I think when you say that name, it's really, really associated with the Poltergeist franchise.
Really?
That's not to say that there's no one out there named Carol Ann, but if you talk to anyone who's seen that movie and you say Carol Ann, that's the first place your mind goes to. Kind of like when people say Layla, most people who know who Eric Clapton is go to the song Layla, or things like that. Or if you know someone named Marsha, most people go straight to the stupid show where it's like Marsha.
Yeah.
But that's what I feel with Carol Ann. So and I've met people with tons of uncommon names. I met some guy in college named Wajdi. I used to work with someone named Osiris Lynn. These are weird names. I've even met freaks that are named Robin. So never
Fuck
Carol
you.
Ann though. But if you are a Carol Ann, give us a shout out on social media. But you have to actually be called that, not just someone named Carol whose middle name is Ann, but someone who goes by the full name Carol Ann. So anywho, in the movie, shit pops off, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will say that the story I'm about to tell you is certainly going to have spoilers for parts of the first movie in particular. So it has a fairly happy, if not creepy ending that leaves you not wanting to fuck around with a TV with static on the screen, which is not really a spoiler because the poster is of a little girl
sitting in front
putting
of
her
the screen.
hand on a TV with static on it. Which really doesn't happen anymore because it always goes to blue screen and it says no signal. You know what I mean?
Wasn't there a movie about static on TV screens? White noise? Is that?
Yeah, and that's about electronic voice phenomenon and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, similar thing.
I wanna watch it.
But it doesn't happen anymore because all the TVs or whatever
You can still do that.
no signal to it. But whoever made that decision, by the way, to make that an automatic thing where you just get rid of the static and put it on the blue screen, must have seen this fucking movie. I really think it had an effect on people because if that's how spirits can communicate, the battle is over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They figured it out. Unless it pops up in this blue screen, it doesn't say no signal, but it just pops up and says I see you. Or behind you, or something super
Jesus
creepy like
Christ.
that. But the movie was actually really popular when it came out, and it did generate 2 sequels, like I said, Poltergeist 1, 2, and 3. One came out in 1982. I think 1984 or 85 was number 2, and 1988 was number 3. So over the course of 6 years, the cast and crew would reunite and have strange things happen. So what strange things happened, do you ask?
Murder.
Well, no, okay, we'll get to this. So there was some shit that I'll say was more macabre. That's how you say that word, right? Not macabre,
Yeah.
like I've always read it my entire
Dude,
life.
I used to say
Hermione
Mate
instead of Matt.
instead of Nat.
You say Decatur instead of Decatur.
No,
so.
I still say Decatur. When I was 10, I used to say Decatur.
When you moved out here, I was told that you used to call Decatur Decatur.
Yeah, when I was 10.
Your sister told me you did that when you moved out here when you were 24.
No, that is
Okay,
not
well,
true.
Liz, she just called you a liar. So,
No.
anyways, getting back to the macabre. As people often do with movies, they confuse who actually directed the movie a lot of times if there's a famous person attached to it. So the person who actually directed the original Poltergeist, his name is Tobe Hooper. And he actually directed the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And Steven Spielberg was a producer on Poltergeist and a writer for it. And he was so impressed with Tobe Hooper on Texas Chainsaw Massacre that he went to recruit him. And I know this isn't a movie podcast, but it's really interesting and it has a point. Because originally Steven Spielberg went to Tobe Hooper and offered him a movie that wasn't Poltergeist. He offered him E.T. he wanted him to direct E.T. instead, which he turned down. So Spielberg said, okay, well, instead of doing that, do you want to do Poltergeist and then I'll direct E.T.? And they said, sure. And it's really interesting because Spielberg had tried to make a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it failed. And he started writing a script that was more about the paranormal rather than like aliens in particular. And that story wound up becoming Poltergeist. He wrote the story completely by himself.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he had two people help him with the screenplay, but he wound up leaving the directing up to Hooper, and he was on set a lot as a producer. And why do I mention this? Well, because it's Steven fucking Spielberg. And when Steven F. Spielberg is there, he's going to make some creative decisions. In fact, a lot of the cast and crew said that if there wasn't like an answer readily available to the question, like they would just look to Spielberg instead of Tobe Hooper, and he would answer the question instead. So it's like he had ideas on like creative decisions, and he had ideas on how to save money. And that said, there's a scene in the first Poltergeist movie that had one of those decisions come into play. And the family in the film is installing a pool. It's like they just moved into a new like housing complex, and they have a huge hole being dug in their backyard. And like anyone who's ever been around that knows, it's really just a huge hole that kind of has like an incline so you can get in and out, so that the machines can go in there and dig it up. And that's where it's at during the movie. So during a particularly spooky scene, it's pouring down rain outside, and I think it is at least, and the mother of the family falls into this big ass hole.
I'm pretty sure it is raining outside.
Yeah, and of course the hole is filled with muddy water. And as she surfaces from under the water,
are there like hands
and
or
attempts
bodies?
to crawl out of the hole, skeletons pop up all around her. And it's a really creepy scene, especially because she tries to climb out that incline and it's really muddy and she keeps sliding back into it. And so it's really fucking like creepy. And what was revealed about that scene and what the actress didn't know at the time they filmed it,
are they real bodies?
Is that Spielberg decided to acquire the cheapest types of prop skeletons he could for the filming of the scene. And you know what's cheaper than plastic or plaster? Real fucking skeletons. Dead serious. It's 100% true. So if you watch this movie and you see that scene, those are real corpses of dead human beings that have had their bone structures removed and preserved, that they threw into a giant hole filled with water and had the actress Jo Beth Williams get into with, who didn't know they were real fucking skeletons.
That's insane.
And when they filmed it, they were pouring down water, because the scene definitely has water in it, and they had all these fucking cameras and all these electronics around it. She didn't even want to get in, because she was afraid she would be electrocuted.
Wow.
She didn't know that they were skeletons, or else she would have been afraid of that too. So it's like, it's bizarre, dude. Side note, she's also super hot in this movie. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. And another side note, and the reason I bring this up, is that IMDb, International Movie Database, I'm sure everyone's heard of it, gives what's called plot points, or plot keywords, I should say. So if you're like interested in paranormal movies, you can go to plot keywords and type in paranormal, and it'll bring you up a list.
Okay.
So if you go to see the movie Poltergeist on IMDb, the very first plot keyword listed is, and I'm dead fucking serious about this, it's not paranormal, it's not ghosts, it's not hauntings, and it's not poltergeist. It's, quote, woman wearing a short nightie.
What?
That's plot keyword number one on there, is woman wearing a short nightie, because of course she wears a short nightie, and that's creepy, and it's also accurate. And I told you that this movie had an effect on my generation. I won't even cover the plot of the third movie because it'll freak Robin out, because it has primarily to do with mirrors.
Oh, God.
And by the way, we're totally gonna fucking watch Poltergeist 2 and 3. We have to do it now, because after going through all this, I'm like, oh my God, I remember all this stuff now. So the third one's not that good though. But now, I'm sure everyone's heard of the movie Chucky, right?
Yes.
You know what I say. When I say Chucky, you picture this fucking doll with a serial killer soul in it. That came out in 1988. And BT dubs, it's called Child's Play. It's not called Chucky. So
all right.
This movie had a doll. This movie, as in Poltergeist, had a doll in it that fucked my shit up way before the little turd known as Chucky ever appeared on the silver screen. It looks like a Raggedy Andy doll. And yes, I had one of those fucking things growing up. And it, of course, in the course of the movie Poltergeist, comes to life and attacks the kid that owns it. Super fucking creepy, horrifying scene, especially for someone that owns one of that and is a kid.
Okay.
So why do I mention this? Because during the struggle on screen, the doll's arms grow super long, and it's like striped like black and white, like zebra stripes.
Yeah.
And they wrap around the boy's neck, attempting to strangle him. And while they're filming the scene, the kid, Oliver Robbins is the name of the actor who played the boy, shouted out, "I can't breathe." And like, I'm pretty sure it's actually in the movie. Like, you can see the movie where he yells that line out. And Hooper and Spielberg loved it. They were both on set during the filming, and it wasn't scripted. So they're like, yo, dog, this kid is improvising. He's working with what the scene gives him. He's really connecting to this character. Yo, Oliver, look in the camera so we can get that fear.
Oh, my God.
And it was around that time that someone realized, oh, fuck, that prop is actually malfunctioning. He actually can't breathe.
Oh, my God.
So at some point when they realized, like, this kid's fucking dying, they had to cut the scene and run over there and remove the prop off of him because it was actually suffocating him.
Wow.
So when you see that scene in the movie, that kid was almost fucking dead. He was actually dying at that time. And when he yelled, I can't breathe, he was actually trying to tell them, like, I can't fucking breathe. Please get this off of me. So
he should have had a safe word.
Right?
Red.
Banana!
Red!
Banana! But it's just so fucking funny to me. Other things that happened on the set that were really creepy. Jo Beth Williams, the mom in the movie, claimed that when she would go home from filming, she would walk into her house and she had a staircase with a bunch of paintings hung on it. And she came home one day and all the paintings were really crooked. So she like went and corrected all of them and was like, okay, that's kind of weird. She'd wake up in the morning and they'd be fine. And she'd go to the set and when she'd come back, they'd all be super crooked again.
Wow.
And she said it happened all the fucking time. And another thing that happened during the filming of Poltergeist 1 is Zelda Rubinstein, who's the short lady who plays the medium.
Were named Zelda back
yeah,
then? Wow,
she's
cool.
the short lady who plays the medium with the high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
And she claimed that while she was on set, she had a vision of her dog coming to say goodbye to her. And she told people about it. And then a few hours later, her mom called her and told her that her dog actually passed away.
That's so sad.
Yeah. And she told people during her audition, I guess she had to audition like 4 times, that she was a medium / psychic in real life.
What?
Yeah. So it's really weird stuff. She lived till like 2017 too. I saw that recently. So she lived a very long life. There's a scene in the movie where like anytime you watch a scary movie where something scary is happening and they reach out to people for help, there's that scene where the paranormal team shows up and sets up and everything like that.
Yeah.
And one of those people is played by an actor named Richard Lawson. And while this didn't take place, what I'm about to tell you, this didn't take place during filming, he would eventually go on to board U.S. Air Flight 405 on March 22nd, 1992.
What happened to that flight?
So, upon boarding the plane, this is important, a ticket attendant was like, oh shit, are you Richard Lawson? To which Richard Lawson probably replied, you're goddamn right I am. And
You're so dumb.
He was upgraded to first class. No joke. Just because he's a celebrity, they're like, we're going to upgrade you to first class. Totally true, except the dialogue. Obviously, that's fake. The plane would then take off, and within 45 minutes, the plane would fucking crash. There was 51 people on board. 27 people would die. 24 people survived. Richard Lawson was one of the people that survived. The seat he would have been in wound up occupied by another individual, and they died in the crash.
Wow.
The free upgrade saved his life, and apparently doomed someone else's.
That's so depressing.
So these are all people associated with this movie, and all the other stuff happened during like the filming, and that one thing in particular happened after the fact, because a lot of people started feeling really awkward on set. And after the film's release, we're still in 1982, so I know I'm jumping back in the timeline. Film comes out in 1982, and there was a man named John Thomas Sweeney, and he was dating Dominique Dunn.
Okay.
Now, if you've seen the movie, I said it's a family of 5. So there's the youngest, which is Carol Ann.
Okay.
She's like 4 or 5.
Right.
There's, I think it's Robbie. He's the middle child. He's the boy. And then the oldest is named Dana. And Dana is like a teenager. I think she's supposed to be like 16 in the film. Pretty sure she's supposed to be 16.
Okay.
And she was dating, in real life, her name is Dominic Dunn. I'm sorry. She was dating John Thomas Sweeney. She was actually like 22 or 23 when they filmed it. She looked very young, so they said she was 16. I think she was actually only like 11 years away from...
It's like when you watch Grease and you realize everyone...
These are all 40-year-old people.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was only like 11 years away from the people playing her parents. So like she was close in age, but she looked very young. So Dominic Dunn is her name. She was dating John Thomas Sweeney. I've said that a million times. So the relationship was not a good one. He was jealous, and he was possessive, and her career was starting to take off.
Was he possessive?
I hate you so much. And he was basically all the things that you associate with toxic masculinity, which means he was really trying to hide a massive amount of insecurities and probably a micropenis because he was pathetic.
Are micropenises real?
I think so. He moved from being possessive to into physical abuse. He started beating her. And eventually she moved out of the place that they shared together. She wound up like telling her mom, and her mom threatened to call the cops because she was trying to get her out of this horrible relationship. But when she moved out, she didn't end the relationship. They stayed together and they would see each other. One night they were at a friend's house and they were fighting. And so this guy decided, hey, I'm going to fucking strangle her. And luckily, one of her friends were in the other room while they were fighting and noticed the absence of sound. You know, when you hear people screaming, then all of a sudden it's super fucking quiet.
Yeah.
And they came into the room. And he jumped off of her because he heard this person coming. So they came into the room, and Dominique Dunn said, like, hey, he was fucking strangling me. He tried to kill me. And Sweeney tried to play it off like that never happened. Like, she's just being fucking dramatic. Come on, babe, let's go to bed. Like, he actually told her, like, let's go to bed. And he gaslighted her like she was lying. And so she went along with it because she knew something was really wrong. So she's like, sure, let's go to bed. And then he went to sleep, and she snuck out the fucking window and got in her car to leave. And she backed out of the driveway, and as soon as she tried to pull away, Sweeney dove onto the hood of her fucking car to prevent her from driving away.
Holy shit.
And she was able to get him off of the hood and drove away eventually. And after that, after the strangling incident, she broke up with his worthless ass and threw him out of the place they shared because she was probably paying the fucking rent anyways. She changed the locks, and she moved back into her place.
Okay.
So a month later, after he tried to strangle her, and this is just so fucking bizarre, so I want to make sure to get into all these details, she was talking to a friend on the phone. And she had someone over because she was cast in a miniseries. I think it was called V. I think it's for Visitor. I think they actually wound up redoing it recently. And she was like rehearsing with this guy in her house, and she was also on the phone with a friend. Back in the day, for those of you who don't know this, which is for our younger audience, we had these things called landlines, which were phones that were in your house, that were stationed in your house, and your house had a phone number, or multiples if you were rich. So
oh my God.
You could dial 0 to get the operator from any landline. And the operator, for those of you who don't know, is sort of like...
Do operators still exist?
I'm sure they do. Like, if you go to a payphone, you can probably reach them. But an operator is sort of like customer service that's always there for all phones. So fucking Sweeney did that. He dialed 0 and he got the operator, and he requested to be connected to Dominique Dunn's phone number, and was told the line was currently engaged. They couldn't get through, and he said, it's an emergency. You have to break into whatever conversation she's in right now and let me talk to her, because they could fucking do that. So the operator came on the line and told her, hey, I have this guy with a middle name that's obviously a really bad guy, John Thomas Sweeney or whatever the fuck his name is. He's not important. And the operator told Dominique, like, he really says he needs to talk to you. He says it's an emergency. So she said, put him through, and she told the person she was talking to, hey, I'm going to talk to him. I'll call you back. So she hung up. He talked to her. 10 minutes after their conversation, he showed up at her house.
Oh, no.
So they talked through a locked door for a little while, and he convinced her, come outside and talk to him on the porch. So the other guy that was there was an actor named David Packer, and he was inside because they were rehearsing and all that stuff. And I'm sure him being there is what triggered Sweeney, and he decided, like, well, you know, I have to go over there and confront him or confront her because I have a tiny dick, and that's what I do. So after going outside, Packer heard them arguing. And then he heard what he described as, quote, smacking sounds, 2 screams, and a thud. And he picked up the phone and he called the cops. And they told him, nope, you're out of our jurisdiction. We're not coming.
Why not?
They didn't transfer him to someone else that would actually bring the cops out there. None of that shit. So he was getting resistance from the police about whether or not they'd even come out.
Why?
So he hung up and he called a friend. And when he called the friend, he said, hey, if Dominique is dead, I want you to know Sweeney did it. And he hung up the fucking phone. And he ran outside. So he's making sure if he goes outside, he's not going to get blamed. And that people know something's wrong right now. I can't wait on the fucking phone with the cops. Because it wasn't a cell phone. It's a fucking landline. And he has to run outside to see what's going on. So he went outside to see what the fuck was going on. And he found Sweeney over Dominique in the bushes near the house. And Sweeney yelled at him to call the police. Because he had fucking strangled her. And he had strangled her into a coma. When the cops arrived, these are all details that I read that I actually didn't write in my script. When the cops arrived, he said, I killed my girlfriend and I tried to kill myself. She was still alive. They transferred her to the hospital. She died 5 days later. She's buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. And for John Thomas Sweeney, the piece of human garbage, he was sentenced to a whole 6 years in prison. For taking the life of someone else.
What the hell?
He served 3 years and 7 months and was released. And if he's still alive, he changed his name because I read this interview with Dominique's dad, who was following him, and they realized he was engaged to someone, and they reached out to that person like, he fucking murdered my daughter. And they're like, you're harassing him, like he's different now. And then after that, he changed his name. So this is the saddest part for me, aside from the actual death of her. And this happened like right after this movie came out, when her career was taking off, is that the last time she was on TV was on a show called Hill Street Blues. I don't know if anyone remembers it. And the episode she was on is called Requiem for a Hairbag. And she played a teenage mom who was the victim of physical abuse.
Wow.
She filmed the fucking episode the day after Sweeney choked her the first time at her friend's house and she drove off successfully. When she showed up to scene, she was fucking... When she showed up to film, she was fucking covered in bruises all over her body from the assault the night before.
So they didn't even need to put makeup on her?
They didn't put any makeup on her. And
my God.
they filmed all of her stuff that day. The episode aired a couple days after her funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how fucked up of a story that is. And I know you're probably thinking, like, so that's it, right? Well, no. That's the end of the stuff for the first fucking movie. We have 2 more movies to go, folks. And they're not as long as all this stuff, but obviously there's more. So in the second film, the family has to explain away the fact that their daughter Dana is gone. So they just decide to say she's off at college to, just deal with the fact that she was murdered in real life.
Okay.
So in the second film, some stuff happened on the set, but there's not a lot of confirmed stuff. And even when I was researching it, the stories are all completely different. So I decided to go with the 2 things that are 100% true that you can't dispute. And there were 2 deaths that were associated with this film. One of them is of the essential bad guy in the film, who's played by Julian Beck. He's the older white guy. I don't know if anyone's seen the film. His name is Kane in the movie. Essentially, the whole plot is crazy and it's ludicrous, but he's very, very creepy. And full disclosure, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer before the film began production, and he was not in the first movie. So he knew he had stomach cancer going into it.
Okay.
But it progressed really rapidly. He was able to complete principal photography. He looks really gaunt in the movie, too. He looks sickly.
Yeah.
Because he's dying, and he died. He died before reshoots were able to be done. And that, they like record audio on set, and then they also record it in post-production.
Really?
Yeah, like almost all audio is recorded in post-production in a movie set, or in like an audio studio, I should say. Like if you ever want to see something cool, like watch Hugh Jackman recording post-production audio for Logan, and it's the fight scene at the end of that movie, and he's in a studio by himself doing screaming and grunting in the fight scene, and he's like so into it, he actually looks like he's fighting someone.
Really?
But when they had to do that, because this guy had died so rapidly, they had to bring in another actor to record his audio in post-production. And rather than hire someone who they thought sounded like him, they hired a voice actor who could make their voice sound like other people.
Wow.
Because it happened like so fast. They had no fucking plan. And the would-be hero in the movie that shows up to help the family, played by Will Sampson, he's this really tall, really handsome Native American dude. He also passed away. And his story is even crazier because the story is that one night, everyone on set was really creeped out by the film franchise because they all knew the crazy shit that had happened in the first one. Mm-hmm. They knew Dominique had died, and they all thought that there was a curse. They thought there was a curse in the Poltergeist movies. And so he decided to go to the set alone late one night to somehow, quote, cleanse the curse. And I shouldn't say quote because I don't even know if he said that. But this wasn't like just something people, made up later, like a lot of different curses. People were really scared of it. So he decided to go and cleanse this curse. And like full disclosure, he had a condition too. His condition he had lived with for most of his life. I think he was 50 when they shot the movie. And he had a condition known as, I think I'm going to say this right, scleroderma. And essentially it's an autoimmune disease where your, immune system attacks your body. And it wasn't something that he had mystically contracted during filming or anything, but it did attack him viciously after the film production was over. And like I said, this guy was like 6'5", right?
Right.
If you watch the movie, and you see him, you're like, he's huge. He's a mountain of a man. They said he weighed 260 pounds during the filming of the movie, in a little less than a year, I think. Actually, I'm sorry, a little over a year. He went from 260 pounds to 140 pounds because of his disease, and he passed away. He passed away right after the second film came out.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and these are things that, people had and they died from, but it's still more deaths associated with the film, so that's where this idea that there's a curse comes into it.
Yeah.
So even if you weren't dying, but you had some sort of disease that you've been dealing with, you wouldn't want to be associated with these fucking films at all. So the last one we go to, obviously, is Poltergeist 3, which, oddly enough, was filmed in Chicago's John Hancock Tower. It's a really funny story. I have all these different fucking random movie facts, so I'm trying to filter them out. The funniest one about the John Hancock Tower being used for filming is they said, you can totally film here. as long as you don't disturb anyone who actually fucking lives here. So they had to spend like 6 weeks figuring out how in the hell they'd film in an entire apartment building, like a full like Hollywood production movie without bothering anyone. And they did. They figured it out, and like people didn't even know they had begun or ended production at any point.
What?
Yeah, so it's like, it's pretty crazy. And the third one doesn't have Craig T. Nelson, so the dad's not in it, or Jo Beth Williams, so the mom, or Oliver Robbins, so the brother. And like the storyline is basically, we're going to keep Carol Ann safe by sending her to live with her aunt and uncle in a high-rise building with fucking mirrors everywhere.
Why the fuck?
So it's like the plot is ludicrous, so they could just replace like all the actors. So it's basically like Carol Ann has a new family. And I won't spoil it because I honestly don't remember a lot of it. I think someone's head explodes at some point.
What?
So that's why I really want to watch it again. And while there may be a few stories of odd happenings on the set of the third film, all that shit is overshadowed by the big thing that most people know about the curse of these films. And during filming of Poltergeist 3, Heather O'Rourke, which is the girl who played Carol Ann, she was, I think, 8, maybe 6 to 8 when she first filmed Poltergeist 1. Okay. So during this, she was 12. She got sick, and she was diagnosed as having Crohn's disease. Oh. And like, I have some friends that have Crohn's disease, and I know it's something that has to do with like your gastrointestinal system. Yeah. I don't know if I even said that word right.
I don't know.
With your insides being no good.
Yeah.
And giving you lots of problems, and you can deal with it, and it's manageable, but it's a pain in the ass.
Right.
So she continued to film, unaware that she had been misdiagnosed.
What?
So after completing principal photography again, so they filmed the movie, they were done, then they have to go back and see all the things they have and figure out if they need to reshoot anything. She got really sick. So January 31st, 1988, she became violently fucking ill, and she was vomiting continuously. She was unable to keep anything down. In the morning, she just collapsed, so her family rushed her to the hospital. I don't know if her family picked her up and took her or if they had an ambulance come, but what is known is that on the way, she suffered cardiac arrest.
Wow.
Which is bizarre that it's just like, this is a 12-year-old girl, just bam. Like, okay, one day, violently ill, and then collapsing in cardiac arrest.
They figured out what was wrong with her?
They got her to the operating table, and she passed away on the operating table. And she was actually suffering from something known as beaver fever. It has a really long, hard to pronounce medical name that I'm not going to try. She didn't have Crohn's disease at all. And it's still, like, beaver fever still wouldn't cause all of this. They also said that she had, quote, congenital stenosis of the intestine. I'll break that down. So congenital just means she was born with it, and stenosis of the intestine basically means that her intestine was abnormally narrow. And because of this, it caused a blockage. She also went into septic shock. So it's like all these things happened all at once, and it was just this perfect cocktail for having a perfectly healthy 12-year-old, or seemingly perfectly healthy 12-year-old one day, and then her passed away the next day. So it was like, when people reported she was sick, it wasn't like the young actress from the Poltergeist movies is in the hospital.
Yeah.
It was just, hey, she died. She dropped to the ground, they got her to the hospital, and she died. And no one knows why. And by then, like, the Poltergeist curse thing was completely fucking well known, so it blew everyone's fucking mind. And they almost didn't release the film because of it. Like, they were just like, this is horrible. We don't fucking know if we should release this, if that's offensive. And eventually MGM stepped in and said, we put a lot of money into it. It's the last thing she worked on.
Okay.
So they still had to do reshoots. They had a stand-in for her, so, like, they wouldn't, like, shoot her face.
Doing, like, the back of her head and stuff.
Exactly. So eventually they did release the film, and the film is dedicated to her, and she is buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery, the same place as Dominique Dunn, her on-screen sister, who was murdered.
Are they
6
next
years
to each
before
other?
that. I don't think they're next to each other. But it's just so bizarre that the two daughters, like when they cast that film, like, and they picked like people, and there's a whole bunch of different stories about casting, which is so interesting. And I'm a movie trivia buff. I want to know. But like, when it comes to her, she was like 4 or 5 when they were actually casting the movie, right?
Yeah.
And she wasn't really an actress, and Steven Spielberg saw her at like lunch, and he thought there was something really special about her. So he went over to her, and her mom was like, I want you to audition for the part of Carol Ann in this movie. And she came in, and I shouldn't say they because I don't know how Spielberg felt, but they didn't like her. Like, she failed the first screen test because she giggled through all of it, including all the stuff that she was supposed to be scared.
Okay.
So they had her come back in a second time. Spielberg reached out and said, come back in a second time and bring a scary story. Bring a book that you can read so you can be scared. So she did, and they went through all the stuff, and it was perfect. And then they asked her to scream. And they're like, scream is perfect. And that's how she got cast.
Wow.
So it's like super, super interesting that that's how she got cast. And then her older sister was this up-and-coming young actress who also got cast. They both passed away, and they both wound up in the same cemetery. So obviously when there's any large group of people working on anything or just gathered together, some of those people, regardless of who they are, will likely suffer some weird occurrences and may even pass away. Like, that's just the nature of life.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a Louis C.K. stand-up I remember where he tells the audience starting out, like, there's enough people here, it's safe to say that in a couple months, someone's probably going to be dead. And it's like, it's creepy to think and it's morbid, but like, that's just true. And when tragedy and bizarre circumstances hit in stuff like this, people begin to call it a curse because it's so many people associated with this franchise, you know? And while these things are all kind of independent of one another, they are connected by the movies and kind of by the movies alone because they're all attached to the movie. And that's why people keep bringing up the Poltergeist curse.
Coach is fine, though.
Coach is fine. Yeah. He totally made it out of there. So, and he wasn't in the third movie either. And despite,
he was like, I know something bad's going to happen if I'm in this movie. I'm good.
No, I think it's like when you get to a third installment in a franchise, you're just like, I'm good, man. Like, I want to like take my career in like another direction and not play the same character. Say that to
everyone in the Marvel movies.
That's different. Marvel is completely different than Poltergeist 3 in 1988. Sequels killed careers back in the day. Like, that's what was known about
Sharknado?
sequels.
Are they all the same people?
They're all like people whose like careers are not doing well wind up in Sharknado.
Really?
It's not like a big blockbuster film. Those are like sci-fi super cheesy movies that are not meant to be good. So people move on from sequels and they don't do them. Schwarzenegger was super famous for saying he'd never do a sequel, and then he did Terminator 2.
But that was good.
Because James Cameron was like, trust me, this is going to be fucking sweet.
You think Avatar 2 is going to be good?
I think it's going to be hot garbage like the first one.
I thought the first one was good.
It's just like, it's Dances with Wolves over again.
Someone told me it's Fern Gully.
Yeah, it is Fern Gully. It's very similar to Fern Gully, too. So it's just like, it's not bad.
I think my older sister said it was Fern Gully.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
That sounds like something she'd say.
Yeah.
But that said, like, I don't necessarily believe in the curse, but it is certainly one of the most bizarre series of events that I've come across on any movie franchise. Most of the movies that I've seen, like, curses associated with was like a single movie or a single event where something happened.
Yeah.
Where that's like really, really messed up. And there's a couple of other really good ones, so I'll eventually revisit like the whole Haunted Hollywood thing. But just like, let me know like if you guys like this or not, so I'll decide how long it's going to be before I come back to it.
All right.
Because I know people really like the Ouija board thing, so I eventually went back to that well. And there's so much stuff about like cursed movies or cursed movie sets or stuff like that happen that it's really fun to get into. And I fucking love movies too. I love talking about them, so it's something that's like I get to double dip when I do this. So I really enjoyed this one.
Dip, you dip, we dip.
I hate you so much. Your eyes lit up when I said the word dip, and I was wondering why. And now I know. So
knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe indeed. All right. So I think that's just about everything we have.
Yeah. Just to remind you guys, we do have Patreon if you guys want to support us, because we need help.
We need support.
But really. So if you go to patreon.com/stereoagepodcast, there's a bunch of different tiers from $1 and up. And
starting at $1, you get early access to all of our episodes, which is super cool. And I think really soon, in fact, we're going to be planning the game night that we're really excited to host.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to work out initially, but I know we're definitely going to try and add some extra stuff in there for patrons. So.
Yep. And then the fall buttons are getting sent out next month. So
during the month of September.
The fall buttons are going to get sent out. So if you want in on that, get signed up ASAP. ASAP.
Like that's ASAP is what she's trying to say.
And I love seeing everyone's shirts that you guys are getting. It's awesome.
It's so exciting.
You guys look awesome. And I'm so excited. It's like so cool to see.
If you want to order one of those, we have them in men's and women's, and you can check out scarish.com, and it's on the right side. It's also pinned on most of our social media, so you can find it there.
Yeah. Scarish.com actually has a bunch of different stuff. There's those links, our affiliate links. They have Robin's likes, so what I like right now is listed on there if you want to check that out. And Ko-fi.com.
Yeah, Ko-fi.com.
ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. That's for one-time donations if you guys want to do that to help us get our studio set up, better lighting. I know video quality could be better.
Yeah, we're dealing with the jankiest setup we're ever going to have right now. Hopefully, unless something goes terribly wrong. So I should just knock on wood right now because I don't know why I said that and put that out there in the universe.
All right.
But your guys' donations definitely help us move forward and take the next steps. And your guys' support makes us realize that we should. So we really, really appreciate everyone who's reached out to us and made us feel that way. And if you guys want to email us for anything, like you could just reach out to us to talk or whatever, it's storytime@scarish.com. Facebook.com/scarishpodcast is our Facebook page, right?
Yep.
And you can like it, and you can also
love it,
I guess. Sure. Join the group, instant feedback. You can also message us on there if you want to send us a story. You can post it in the group if you want. Join the Discord. Twitter is @scarishpod. We did
Check
Ko-fi,
us out
we did
on
Patreon.
YouTube, Twitch. We're on there. Subscribe.
Quick update. I know I told you guys that once we get the YouTube channel up, we need to get to 100 subscribers before we can do a custom URL. The other thing that YouTube requires of us is we have to have been around for at least 30 days. And because you guys are so awesome, we got to 200 subscribers before we ever got to 30 days. I think our 30th day is August 30th. And then hopefully we can be youtube.com/scarishpodcast or whatever we can actually get. But we'll be getting that super soon, so it'll roll off the tongue rather than being like 80 characters after youtube.com.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. We're really excited. And also twitch.tv/scarishpodcast is our Twitch channel. We do the live broadcast of Storytime now every Wednesday. They've been really fun to do. We get to interact with the chat. The episodes are much longer on the live show than they are when we actually release them on Fridays. Because we kind of take out some of the interaction with the Twitch chat because there's no context for people just listening and not watching.
Okay.
But if you do watch, it's really fun. You guys can send us messages and we can talk to you, and it's been a really good time. So thank you to everyone that's been coming out. We hope to hit Twitch affiliate status here super soon, which will be really, really awesome.
How many days do we need for that?
We literally just need to broadcast one more day and we've hit all the goals. I don't know if it happens at the end of the month or how that works, but we're almost at all the goals because we have enough followers. And then the next thing after that is, I think, Twitch partner instead of Twitch affiliate.
Yeah.
So, and those goals are a lot higher, just like with YouTube. There's another thing, I think, YouTube partner as well, but I think you have to be around for a year before that happens. But hey, we're all moving towards that together, and we appreciate everything you guys have done for us. So I think that's just about everything. So, Robin, why don't you go ahead and sign us out?
Keep on creeping on, and we'll see you guys next week. No, or later this week. Derp, 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 derp.